What is up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Retro Hoop Collectibles. Man, do we have a lot going on in the hobby, or what? Let's just get right into it. PPP loans. Everybody's talking PPP loans. I got so many comments in my DMs, so many messages in my DMs. People ask me what I think about it. Here's the deal. I know several people personally who have taken out PPP loans or took out PPP loans to keep their businesses afloat, pay payroll, things like that. And you know that was a program used by the government to try to help businesses during the pandemic when they required everybody to stay home. That was in order to keep people paid. Keep money going into the economy and make sure that nobody's business went under. Although several businesses went under, it's kind of inevitable. But now the big question is as these loans are being forgiven, and as this information is becoming public record, now there's a lot of information out there, and obviously folks are passing judgment and basically saying, hey, on the day that your loan got forgiven, you were partying in Cabo. What's up with that? Why did you take out that PPP? Listen, I think it's important that we understand a couple things here. Number one, if you are a business owner or some business owners, still have their personal liabilities separate from their businesses. So the two cannot be they can't be stuck together, right? I know people whose businesses were doing bad during the pandemic who were personally doing well, okay? And these are folks that have multiple businesses all over the place, that even though, like I said, their businesses weren't churning in revenue, they took out PPP loans to keep those businesses afloat and keep the people within those businesses paid. But they themselves weren't really hurting that bad. Morally, however you want to decide that is, however you decide that is morally, that's one thing, but none of that is illegal. None of that is, wrong. And specifically, we're talking about this situation with Sports Card Investor and the PPP loan that was taken out for his business, I think he said he had a marketing business. So Sports Card Radio did the video where Jeff Wilson took out a PPP loan for a company called 345 or 456 or something like that. I can't remember. I'll post it up right here. And, kind of accused Jeff of using that money to buy sports cards and to buy all these things for Sports Card Investor and to start the channel and to do all this other stuff. And he accused a whole lot of folks, or not accused, but he brought up a lot of information from a lot of companies, Upper Deck, Breakers, LCSs in that video, and called out a lot of folks that took out PPP loans during the pandemic to keep their businesses afloat. And from my understanding, I think Sports Card Investor was the only one that actually made a video in response to that. And his video was pretty clear. He said, hey guys, he says it at the beginning of every one of his videos. He is a business investor by day and a sports card investor by night. And as I understand it, as my very generic understanding of Jeff Wilson and his situation, he has his hands in several businesses, one of which is this marketing company that took out a PPP loan to keep everybody, keep payroll and his people taken care of. And, so he got accused of, using those funds, misappropriating those funds and things like that. And then Jeff came back and said, hey, that's simply not true. I took out that PPP loan in order to keep another business that I also own with other partners afloat. And of course, the reaction is, well, if you were spending all this money on sports cards, why didn't you just use some of that money to take care of the businesses? And oftentimes it's not that easy. To take money out of one pocket, stick it in the other. There's all kinds of crap that goes along with that. Sports Card Radio made the content. Jeff Wilson defended himself. And I think it's important that although we're talking about two pretty big people in the hobby, Sports Card Radio and Jeff Wilson, I think that we should really look at what I'm taking away from all of this. And I have an opinion on all that stuff. I'll share one with you guys, and this is just my opinion and my opinion alone. It does not reflect the thoughts of anybody that's associated with me or this channel, personally or professionally. But I don't think that there should have been any reason for any at-home breakers during the pandemic to have taken out a PPP loan. That's just my thought. Business was booming during the pandemic. So that's just my thoughts. But I think one of the things that I'm taking away from all of this, because some of this situation is kind of wrapped up in drama, some of it isn't. But I think what's important to really pay attention in this entire situation, and this is happening a lot, okay, over the last couple of months, is as we're coming out of the last 12 to 18 months of craziness that was the hobby as a whole, in general, is taking inventory of who the bad actors were and who the good actors were during this whirlwind. It's very hard to do so when you're in the mix, right? When you're in the fire, it's hard to discern who the bad guys and who the good guys are when everybody's shooting. But what's important is that accounts like Sports Card Radio, accounts like AIH Sports, accounts like Dan the Card Man, in my opinion, are extremely essential to the health of the hobby going forward. The hobby itself is really taking inventory and going, who screwed us during the pandemic and who took care of us during the pandemic? Who are those guys? Who are those breakers that were taking care of people during the pandemic? And who are the breakers that were screwing people during the pandemic? Who are the companies that were here before the pandemic that continued to take care of us during the pandemic? And who were the companies that were here before the pandemic that got greedy during the pandemic and took advantage of us? And who are the people that were maybe not around during the pandemic, but came on board during the pandemic, who did good business and took care of people during that time? The inventory is being taken, right? And it's important that we continue to call out the nonsense, the hanky-panky, as my boy AIH says. We continue to call that out. And then it's important that going forward, as we take inventory of who these good actors are and who these bad actors are, that we vote with our dollars, right? Continue to support the businesses that are doing good business in the hobby and stop supporting the businesses that are doing bad business, that did it during the hobby and continue to do it now. But the fact that these conversations are even happening is making me feel good, because I did it myself. I called out Nat Turner on this card, and Nat Turner responded, right? I may not necessarily agree with his response. That's neither here nor there. But the dialogue was opened. Sports Card Radio called out Jeff Wilson. Jeff Wilson responded, right? It's that level of openness and transparency that's what's going to keep this thing going forward and making sure that we're all on the same level. So I, for one, don't necessarily agree with maybe some of the way that Sports Card Radio does their content, but I think the basis of what they're doing is necessary, and I'm a fan of their content. This is in no way poo-pooing on anything they do, but I think they got it wrong on this one, in my opinion. Let me know what you guys think down in the comments. Check out the Card Hedge podcast. Drops every Saturday at noon. Follow me on Instagram at RetroHoopBreaks. Check out Card Hedge. Links in the description. Love you guys. Peace.